Hello everybody, thanks very much for joining us as we get set for the first track side action of the weekend here at Zolder. It is the second weekend on the trot here in the northeast of Belgium. It seems only a few days, it was only a few days since we were last here witnessing what was a very dramatic weekend. This is going to be very, very serious weekend though in terms of the Drivers' Championship, which is now really hotting up with just 4 races to go and just 16 points covering Nico Muller, Renee Rast and Robin Frijns. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to talk you through all of the action this weekend. Our 2 free practices here at Zolder today, and then of course on Saturday and Sunday 2 qualifying sessions, 2 races to come, and with the championship on a 10 to hooks, we've got 112 points still available. But it's getting to the point now where you could see drivers potentially dropping out of that chance of taking the 2020 title. Renee Rast putting himself right back into the fight and up to second place in the championship with a double victory here at Zolder. He's 10 points Nico Muller, but does he now become the favourite for the title in a sense, because we're back at Zolder, back at the circuit where he was oh so successful last time out. Nico Muller maybe starting to feel a little bit more pressure now. It was a little bit unlucky said at the previous weekend here at Zolder, particularly in that second race. He finished in 9th position in the end, but he could have been on for another podium finish. The problem for him being the mid-race safety car, which came out just after Renee Rast and Mike had pitted and just before Nico Muller was due to pit, so everybody got bunched back up. He had to take the mandatory pit stop in the second half of the race, and that dropped him to the tail end of the top 10. Whitman, likewise, who had just out on the chance to get his pit stop completed before the safety car was deployed. So the pair of them tried to catch up to the pack. They were catching up. They closed something like a 30-second gap down to just about 6 seconds on several cars ahead of them, but ran out of pace, ran out of steam in the closing stages, and 9th place was the best that Nico Muller could do. On board with Sheldon van der Linde, who dropped down to 6th place in the championship, despite the fact he's on this tremendous run of what is now 10 races on the trot, where he's in the points. The season highlight, the career highlight so far being the race victory in the second race at Assen, his first of his DTM campaign. Zolder, a circuit where he's gone well before though, was on that pole position here last year. Driver standings then with, as I say, just 16 points between Muller, Rast and Frijns now. Robin Frijns dropping down to 3rd place, as I'm sure many of you saw, after he exited the pits. He was the first of the front runners, the first of the championship contenders to come in pit stop in that second race, and on absolutely brand new tyres in what are now of course cool conditions as we head into the deep of the autumn. He understeered into the barriers on the pit lane exit, and it wasn't that heavy an impact, but it was bad enough the front right suspension of the car and put him out of the race. So for the first time this season, a non-point scoring finish for Robin Frijns, a retirement which dropped him out of, again, what was potentially going to be a 2nd or 3rd place finish. Ferdinand Habsburg, who's been showing some really good pace of late. His last 4 results, 2 races at Zolder last weekend and 2 races around the Nürburgring Sprint the weekend before, has seen him take 4 consecutive top 7 finishes, a 6th and 3 7ths now. So he's one of the on-form drivers there at the head of the queue. You just saw the cars lining up ready to go for what's going to be the 45-minute session. And news to bring you, which was announced yesterday, or early on yesterday, of a new driver that's going to be coming in just for this weekend. It's Benoit Trellier, who is going to be taking the place of Loic Duval in the Audi Sport Team Phoenix setup. You just saw him front of the pit lane on the overhead shot a little while back. Benoit, 3-time Le Mans winner, has come in to take over from Loic Duval, who can't be with us this weekend because he's racing at the Petit Le Mans in the USA. So Team Phoenix with a new driver, completely new to DTM. It's his first official championship start this weekend on the number 19 car. new number for that car, new driver, but familiar livery for Team Phoenix. But Benoit has some DTM experience because he was one of the drivers that went to Fuji in Japan at the end of last season for the non-championship weekend, the DTM Dream Race, which saw the Japanese Super GT Class 1 cars up against a number of DTM cars. He raced for WRT and actually finished the first race as the top DTM driver, finishing in 6th place. Got in the points in both of the races. So the car's then heading out of the pit lane. This is the corner, if you want to call it a corner, coming out of the pit lane where it all went wrong for Robin Freins last week, just 5 days ago on the Sunday. He's taken responsibility for that. But again, it was kind of the perfect storm, things going against Robin Freins because of the fact that we'd had 2 damp qualifying sessions, and the drivers hadn't had necessarily the chance to scrub in all of their new slick tyres. So rather than going out on a slightly scrubbed set, he went out on a brand new set for the second part of the race, and that, rest assured, will have been like driving on ice. So there, Nico Muller, the championship leader, as he's been right from the start of the season. He won both the races in the season opener at Spa, which was only a couple of months ago, but where the temperatures were over 30 degrees, scorching hot start to this delayed campaign for the 2020 DTM season. And now we've gone from the 30-degree heat of Spa down to around about 9 or 10 degrees at the start of the days. But it is looking like it's going to be a dry weekend. Looking at the forecast for today and Saturday and Sunday, it looks fairly consistent. Overcast, there might be a few brighter spells. But the forecast is that it is, or it should be, dry conditions around about 8, 9, 10 degrees in the morning. It's going to get slightly cooler as the weekend goes on. And then during the afternoons, when we get the qualifying sessions and races, a little bit warmer, maybe up to about 12 degrees. It's slightly cooler than last weekend. But dry conditions it should be. I saw one of the onboard shots there, the camera facing Timo Glock, who's moved up to 5th place in the championship now after picking up 2 4th place finishes here at Zolder last weekend. And Timo now the top placed BMW in the standings on 102 points, 5th place for him. Sheldon van der Linde just 3 behind on 99 is 6th, and Marco Whitman, who's also been on the podium for the BMW mark this season, is in 7th place in the championship on 90 points. Mathematically, we've now only got the 3 drivers that can win the driver's title, Muller, Rast and Freins, because there are, as I say, 112 points up for grabs. And Mike Rockenfeller, who's in 4th place in the championship, is 150 points behind. The team's title was decided in favour of the team that ran Nico Muller and Robin Freins. Had a disappointing race, but they did secure the team's title, Team Ab Sportsline. So that title is now decided. A couple of race weekends ago, the title was already decided in record time for Audi in terms of the brand championship. They could well go over the 1,000 point mark this weekend. They're on 961 points, BMW on 417. Audi Sport Team Ab Sportsline 502 points, 200 points clear of Audi Team Rosberg, who got the biggest score in terms of teams for the first time this season. They picked up 26 points from their 2 drivers at Zolder. Well, 1 driver really, because it was Renee Rast that was picking up all the points for them, but it's the 2 drivers that contribute towards the team's championship. That was actually the first time this season that Team Rosberg, who was 2nd in the points, have picked up more points than anybody else in a race. And it was the worst result for Team Ab Sportsline so far this season. They only picked up 2 points for that 9th place finish for Nico Muller. So teams getting ready to receive drivers. Renee Rast, who's on a real charge now in this championship, coming down the pit lane as they just build up, run through the data, scrub the tyres in, check the cars over, and we'll start to prepare now for some quicker lap times. The trend usually being that the first part of the session in free practice is given over to trying to get single lap pace and heading for qualifying times, qualifying type runs, and then the rest of the session given over to longer runs as they set up for the race. Unusual situation for them compared to what we've had so far this year for the teams and for the drivers, in that we're going to be not back to the same circuit for the second weekend on the trot. That has happened already, the Lausitz Ring and the Nürburgring, but we're going to be on exactly the same layout and actually with very, very similar conditions, at least once it's dry, because of course we did have those damp affected free practice and qualifying sessions. But the data they gained last weekend is going to be very, very useful going forward to this weekend. JB Green, Ferdinand Habsburg heading out of the pits, and Harrison Newey as well, who had an excellent weekend, his best so far in his maiden season of DTM here at Zolder, with 2 terrific race results. So there's the corner. You can still see the marks actually on the left of the picture where Robin Fryns hit the barriers, and we've seen it from the onboard perspective, but that was the fateful moment, just that one fleeting moment where a huge amount of points were effectively ripped away from Robin Fryns' campaign. We're all going to be very aware of that, particularly with these cooler conditions. But at least, if there are no damp starts to any of the free practice or qualifying sessions, they should be able to scrub all of their tyres in and learn from that. Just over 4 kilometres long, the circuit here at Zolder. Features a number of chicanes, features a fair bit of undulation as well, particularly the first sector. And the run down through the left-hander at turn 7 is a real corkscrew, like being on a roller coaster. You've got some heavy braking zones, and there are a limited number of overtaking spots. It's predominantly on the way into the chicanes, but we did see some very, very good overtakes last weekend. Nico Muller around the outside into the Jackie X chicane. We saw into turn 12. A very good move from Harrison Newey down the inside of Marco Whitman in race 1 to pick up what was his best result of the season, a 5th place finish. Harrison now having picked up also a 6th place finish, so a 5th and a 6th at Zolder last weekend, boosting his points. He started the weekend on 1 point in the DTM. He's moved up to 19 points now. Fabio Scherer also picking up his first points, the WRT squad, having a really good weekend in their home country, with a 5th place finish for Fabio Scherer being his first points finish, and automatically therefore his best result so far in DTM. So that's a team that will be very glad to be back here, and I'm sure Renee Rast will be delighted to be back here as well, having looked so good throughout the course of the weekend. Right, just to give you a sense of what kind of times we're looking for then, if we go back to last weekend, free practice 1, the fastest time was set by the man you're looking at. It was quickest in both of the free practice sessions, Robin Fryns, and his best time in free practice 1 at the same time of day last weekend was a 1 minute 20.075. Renee Rast has just done a 1:24.5, but we should be getting a fair bit quicker than that. Be interesting to see though, and the slightly cooler conditions will affect things. But it is also worth remembering that at the very start of the free practice session, there were some damp patches on the track. They were on slick tyres, but damp patches on the line to start with. So it was a little bit later in the session before the quick times really came about, and there were still actually some damp patches off the line, even by the end of the 45-minute session. So it could be that we'll get even slightly quicker now. 1:20.075, the best from free practice 1, and they went a bit quicker in the afternoon, a 1:19.9 for Robin Fryns. But Renee Rast, as he makes away past Timo Glock, who's still getting up to speed, and Rast on the attack here. But van der Linde has set the best first sector so far, a 25.667. And Renee Rast quickest through sector 2 with a 30.9, but Sheldon van der Linde was 3/10 quicker than Rast through the first sector. And Rast backs it off now, it seems, on the way down into the chicane. Van der Linde quicker, but much quicker as well through the second sector, a second quicker. So van der Linde is going to set, when he comes through, the best time of the session so far. For now, it's Rast with a 1:24.504, but Sheldon van der Linde looking a fair bit quicker. Here he comes then in the BMW. Coming out of the Jackie X chicane, over the line he goes, and this should put him to the top of the times. No, it doesn't actually, because the last sector he backed off. So it was all looking good, 1:25.883, but he lost out in the final sector. He was much quicker at the start and the middle of the lap though. Right, Renee Rast going for it again. 25.166 through the first sector. Ferdinand Habsburg, he's about to put in his first proper lap of the session, and we'll see where this puts him. Just adjusting the brake bias there. The front to rear bias of the brakes. He's gone 4th at the moment, 1:26.052. These times are going to get much, much quicker. You can get the sense of this slightly downhill run that they have into the first corner at Est. Philip Eng coming through, race winner here last year, but a really tough weekend for him here last time out. Right, Rast is about to improve his time by the looks of things. We've got Ferdinand Habsburg on a very good first sector as well, actually. A tenth quicker than Renee Rast on this lap through the first sector. Muller goes quickest for now, though, 124.173. Here comes Renee Rast to maybe go above that. He crosses the line, yes, 122.8. Waiting for Habsburg to come through the second sector. I'll break that beam just before he gets to turn 12. Jonathan Aberdeen has gone up to 6th place at the moment, but Sheldon van der Linde now goes quickest, 120.633, and Ferdinand Habsburg's got it all wrong at the end of the lap. That's coming out of turn 12, and that's why the yellow flag's briefly out, but Ferdinand has got it going again, but that's rather ruined what was looking like a very good lap for Ferdinand Habsburg. Personal best in the first two sectors as Jamie Green now goes to the top of the times, 120.515 seconds. Right, so Ferdinand Habsburg dusts himself down and gets going again now. Have another crack at this. There goes Ferdinand on the way into the first corner at Erst, which is a third gear corner, taking about 140 kilometres an hour. We've got Renee Rast, who's suddenly down in 7th place, but on a good lap here. Absolute best in the first and second sectors for him. So we're coming now into the Jackie X chicane, named after the legendary Belgian racing driver, 6-time Le Mans winner and multiple Formula 1 race winner as well. And Renee Rast, although Freins has gone quickest now, is about to go even better. 119.624 for Renee Rast. That's already quicker than the best of the free practice times from last weekend. 3/10 quicker, in fact. Robin Freins second. He was briefly top. 119.859 seconds, and Harrison Newey going really well again. Third quickest, 120.336. Jamie Green fourth, 120.515. Van der Linde in fifth, 120.633. He's only 7 thousandths quicker than Nico Muller, who is sixth at the moment with a 120.640. Rockenfeller seventh, Glock eighth, Eng ninth, Scherer in 10th place. And Robin Freins 25.3 through the first sector, so about 2 or 3 tenths down on where he absolutely needed to be through that first sector. But the second sector, he's very strong, a 29.2. That's a personal best, in fact. So coming towards Jackie X chicane, but he backs off. So he's going to abort the quick lap here. Give himself a bit of track space and go for it again. He's got Mike Rockenfeller just behind him. Rocky was unlucky after they had a problem in the pit stop in the first race, where he looked like he might be on course for a podium finish here last weekend. Problem with the air supply, and the airline meant that the car wasn't jacked up properly, and it took him 20 seconds longer than normal to change the tyres. But he bounced back well to get into the points, having dropped to the back of the field, and then in race 2, very competitive all the way through to pick up a podium finish behind Renee Rast, coming home in second place for his second podium of the season. And as I say, putting him up to 4th place in the championship. Up to 4th place at the moment in the times is Muller. Could this improve him still further? Personal best in the second sector, about to cross the line. Muller goes through 119.944. It almost matches the previous time of 119.931, but not quite. Jamie Green with the personal best lap has gone second quickest now at a 119.826. So Rast a couple of tenths advantage, 119.624, and then Green and Freins almost identical times in second and third, a 119.826 for Green, a 119.859 for Freins. So 33 thousandths of a second between them. Ferdinand Habsburg has headed into the pits. He's fourth on a 119.926. Muller's gone into the 119s as well, 119.931. Only 5 thousandths behind Habsburg, but only 19 thousandths ahead of Mike Rockenfeller. Robin Freins now to the top of the times with a 119.571 though. Quickest lap so far. We never got to see the qualifying lap record being broken last weekend because of the fact that both of the sessions were running damp and drying conditions. But the lap record here, going back to last year, Philip Eng in qualifying is a 121, so they should be smashing that tomorrow if they get to a dry track. Certainly beat the race lap record last year with these increasingly fast Class 1 cars, these 2-litre turbocharged cars. Robin Freins getting out of the way, having set the best time of the session, 119.571. Rast in second, Green into the pits in third place. Habsburg's already in the pits in 4th. Muller's gone into the pits as well. He's 5th. Rockenfeller 6th. They're the 6 drivers that have got into the 119s, and there's about 0.4 of a second between them. Freins a 10th ahead of Rast. Rast 2/10 ahead of Green. There's not much at all between Green, Habsburg, Muller and Rockenfeller. Only about a 10th covering those drivers. Watching Fabio Scherer now, who is already up in the top 8 and could be about to improve here. Rockenfeller stays out of his way. And Fabio Scherer with a personal best in the first sector. A decent run through sector 2, although he's about 0.3 down on the absolute best through that second sector. And does he keep it going through the third sector? Over the line he comes. And in the end, he just lost out in the second half of the lap. So doesn't improve his time and stays in 8th place. But he's got the track to himself, as has this man, Harrison Newey, coming through now and looking very much like he's on the attack on this lap. So Harrison on a charge, currently running in 8th place, but he was up in the top 4 earlier on in the session. Got to find about half a second to mix it with the really best drivers in this session. Comes out of turn 12, goes through the Jochenried chicane, and with personal best in the first 2 sectors, this could see him moving up. He's only got to find a 10th, and he'll get himself up into the top 5. So Harrison Newey goes over the line. Now the time comes up, and he goes 4th, 1:19.909. Very, very good lap from Harrison Newey. I think he'd quite like every round of the championship to be at Zolder the way it's gone for him. It's just clicked with the track. And it's not just a case of he's getting on well with this track and nowhere else. He's been getting better and better as the season has gone on, and has really acquitted himself well. It was a very late deal for him to come into DTM this season. It was Ed Jones that was supposed to be taking that seat, but with travel restrictions and problems getting back and forth from his base in the United Arab Emirates, Harrison Newey got the opportunity to test the car and then ultimately race the car, and has looked very impressive in his first season as a rookie in the DTM. So Audi's dominating the session at the moment with the top 6 places. Jonathan Aberdeen the best, BMW.
Against Muller, only chicane.
Copy.
So Renee Rast speaking with his race engineer, and all fairly relaxed. Muller also in the garage. Very overcast here. It's suddenly starting to feel and look a lot more like autumn as we go into these last few weekends of the season. And as ever, studying the data is now the key for the drivers, trying to figure out where they can maybe just find a few hundredths of a second here and there. All adds up, makes a difference when it's usually oh so tight. And as a case in point, you got Harrison Newey 4th, Ferdinand Habsburg 5th, Nico Muller 6th, Jonathan Aberdeen 7th, and Mike Rockenfeller 8th, all in the same 10th of a second of each other. In fact, less than half a 10th covering them. There's only 41 thousandths of a second covering those 5 drivers, which is ridiculous, really. So incredibly tight it seems. I'll now concentrate for the final 25 minutes or so of the session, though, on the longer run pace. And here, I'll probably be looking at going around about 2 seconds a lap slower than they are able to do on absolute flat-out qualifying pace. This session last weekend, this is where Renee Rast really was starting to look good on the longer run pace. He was able to keep the times up. In that first free practice session last Friday, Robin Freins was quick at the start but struggled as the session went on. He corrected that. They sorted it out with the setup for free practice 2. Muller is very good.
Okay, you can prepare for engine start. And we go. Please do a start practice.
He's very good at keeping the pace up at the end of the session.
At the moment, which is Renee. He's braking for turn 12 now.
So a quiet track. Renee Rast, the first one out. Muller gets the information that he is, or Rast is coming towards the end of his lap. And Muller coming out, so not be that far apart on the circuit. As Muller now joins what's a largely empty circuit here at Zolder, having set the 6th quickest time at the moment. 4/10 slower than Robin Freins.
I had a bad upshift 4th to 5th before turn 4. Maybe we can check the data afterwards.
Copy that. So track is clear. We will be 18 timed laps.
It's a long run, isn't it? 18 laps. We did see 15, 16 lap runs, but it's just going to be a long run for Muller. Very much with his game face on here. A big, big weekend for him. It was just a fraction off the pace last weekend in the build-up to those races, in the free practice and the qualifying sessions, but he wasn't far off. He did a great job, I thought, to rescue a podium finish in race 1 from 7th on the grid, and he might well have done the same in race 2 had circumstances gone more in his favour. So he doesn't need to panic, that is for sure, because Nico Muller is still driving very well, still getting the most from sometimes some tricky situations. But it'd be very odd if he wasn't feeling some sort of pressure now, with what was a pretty comfortable points lead at one stage, having now dwindled down to just 10 points. Well, Renee Rast, having scored 6 consecutive podium finishes now from the last 6 races, second, third, and 2 wins, and becoming the well, getting the 2020 record, if you like, because Nico Muller had got the record this season for the most number of podiums on the trot. That's for this season, not forever, but he got 5, the first 5 of the season, where he won 3 and got 2 second-place finishes at Spa on the Lausitz-Ring. But Renee Rast surpassing that with 6 consecutive podium finishes. And he's the form driver as well. If you look at the form for the last 4 races, the 2 here at Zolder last weekend, and at the Nürburgring Sprint, the meeting before that, well, Renee Rast, this is including qualifying points, the form guide over the last 4 races is that Renee Rast has got 90 points, Robin Freins has got 67, and Nico Muller only 54. So in the last 4 races, Renee Rast has scored 36 more points than Nico Muller. And if that trend were to continue for the final 4 races, Rast would finish 26 points clear of Muller. Freins has outscored Muller by 13 points, and if that trend continued, then he'd finish 3 behind Muller. So you'd have Rast, Muller and Freins at the end of the season. But of course, although we're back here at Zolder, very different circumstances in 3 weeks' time. We get to the final round at Hockenheim. But it is just a point that Muller does need to reverse this trend. They've been catching him up. 36 points. It's a big gap to close. The start of last weekend, before we got to any of the qualifying sessions, Renee Rast was 47 points adrift of the championship leader. 10 points adrift now. And Robin Freins, though, is going to be very much a danger. I know he
like
dropped to 3rd in the standings.
All the straights
but he
compared to Aberdeen.
Yeah, and where do I find now 1.4 seconds? So 5, 6. Need to get the chicane right. Where else?
Yeah, 5, 6 is 3.5 tenths roughly.
So team radio there, Lucas Auer. Where do I find a 1.5 seconds then? Well, it's losing 3 tenths at turns 5 and 6 is the first chicane on the lap, so the Kleiner chicane.
6 tenths out of 15, 16. I guess the rest should be on the straights we're missing.
It's a lot in the final chicane at Jackie X as well. So if he gets those 2 chicanes better,
yeah, overall,
that's 8 tenths he can gain back.
Top speed compared to Aberdeen.
Impressive, yep. Okay.
Straight line speed, the worry though. Lucas getting his 2nd podium finish of the season in race 2 at Zolder here last Sunday, where he picked up a 3rd place finish. One of the drivers to benefit from that mid-race safety car, and the fact that he'd already been into the pits and got his stop out of the way. And of course, there was a race winner for BMW at the Lausitz-Ring earlier in the season, and has returned to the championship. His first weekend driving a DTM at Zolder though last weekend, having not competed in the series in 2019. And here's the very impressive Ferdinand Habsburg, getting better and better in his 2nd season of DTM, currently in 5th place with 119.926. All right, let's have a look then as the times start to come through now. Not everybody is out on circuit, but we'll have a look at the longer run times. So last weekend, on the first free practice session on his longer runs, Renee Rast was fairly consistently hitting the low 122s all the way through his stint, really. Got a very high 121, but he managed to hover in and around the 120.0 to 122.0 to 122.2 sort of bracket. Even a couple of laps from the end of his session, he was doing 122.1, so that is a kind of benchmark time. Robin Freins at the moment, 121.4. Track is looking quicker than it did last weekend comparatively. That's, again, partly due to the fact that it's completely dry. 121.1 for Renee Rast last time through. So he's the quickest man on the track at the moment, 121.1. And a 121.3 for Fabio Scherer makes him the third quickest driver on track, because Robin Freins has just done a 121.0 to go to become the quickest driver at the moment on these long runs. So 121.0 for Freins, 121.1 for Rast, a 121.3 for Scherer, and also in the 121s at the moment, Jamie Green. No doubt about it, it was quick in the free practice sessions last Friday, but the weekend, as so often been the case for him this year, just didn't work out for him. Struggled in qualifying to a point this year, but he did get one good qualifying session for race 2 last weekend, where he was fifth quickest. And again, the race just didn't go his way. There's definitely the potential for Jamie to have a good weekend here. We know what a good driver he is. 207 race starts in the DTM, 17 times a race winner, and multiple championship contender as well. And runner-up, top 3 in the championship several times. Marco Whitman, a double champion coming through. Didn't quite get the radio transmission there. Effectively, for a while at least, led the second race, but knew he had to come in and make another stop, because even though he hadn't caught the safety car train, because the safety car had technically been deployed when he came in to make his stop, well, if you stop behind the safety car in a safety car period, it doesn't count as one of your mandatory stops, or your mandatory stop, so you have to come in again. Sparks flying from the BMW. And a 120 now we've got. 120.7 for Robin Freins, 120.9 for Renee Rast. They're not that far off the qualifying type runs, so only about a second off that, which is impressive. So the longer run pace here is much, much stronger than it was at the start of their long runs last weekend. The quickest man on the track, Robin Freins. Second quickest is Renee Rast, 2 tenths between them.
Muller and Rast on 20.9, Timo on similar pace like you.
Marco Whitman comes through, 121.9. Second a lap slower currently. But what will the times be like at the end of the session? It's no good being very, very quick for 6 laps and then your times die a death. And that's what happened to Robin last weekend in this first free practice session. He was very quick at the start, but his tyres really did fade away. As I say, corrected that in the second free practice session, but last weekend he was doing low 121s to begin with, but by the end of his 15 or 16 lap stint, he'd suddenly dropped into the 124s. Big drop off for him. All looking good at the moment though for Robin Freins. Yes, he's dropped to 3rd in the championship. He's only 16 points behind though. Wins the race tomorrow, and Nico Muller is 2nd, for example. That's a 16-point deficit. Suddenly becomes a 9-point deficit with 3 races to go, which doesn't sound a lot, does it? I think one thing is for sure, Robin Freins is going to be on the attack this weekend. In the race, or the race is, nobody could quite match the pace of Renee Rast. Got close to him. Rockenfeller saying at the end of the race just how quick Renee Rast was. Just a bit too quick for us this weekend. It doesn't stand to reason. They're not going to be able to close the gap this weekend, though. Same, really, for race 1. Robin Freins finishing 2nd in race 1, but I didn't quite have the ultimate pace to challenge Renee Rast in the race. And Renee, in the end, dominating, winning by over 18 seconds that first race. But they've got to close the gap. And Freins, we know, an attacking driver. He's going to go for it this weekend. I think he's going to be fairly spectacular to watch for the last 4 races of the season. He's already scored bags more points than he managed throughout the entire 2019 season. Kasawa trying to narrow the gap, just in the brake bias once again. That spinning disc to the right of the picture as he makes his way through the final chicane at Jackie Hicks. Lucas Sauer about to come through. His last lap was 121.8, and that's a 121.8, so he's consistent. Anyway, 121.879. But the BMWs look about currently a second off the top Audis around the longer runs. Robin Fines has just done a 120.7. Renee Rast has just done a 120.8. And the only other driver beneath the 121s is, guess who? That's right, Nico Muller, 120.9. It's Fines, Rast, Muller, the quickest three at the moment on these longer runs. The next best, with a low 121, is Philip Eng, 121.177. 121.195 for Mike Rockenfeller, who was very quick here last weekend as well. So Eng, the best of the BMWs at the moment on this long run pace. The fastest BMW time on single lap pace, still belonging, of course, to, from that first part of the session, to Jonathan Aberdeen, the South African, 7th quickest on a 119.9, and almost identical times to the 3 cars that were just ahead of him, or 4 cars that were just ahead of him really, with Jamie Green on a 119.8. Here comes Robin Fines again, looking very neat and tidy as he comes out of the final turn, goes over the line, but that lap's slower, 121.2. So that's half a second slower than the lap before. Anybody else in the 120s? Yeah, Jonathan Aberdeen's got into the 120s now. That was a very good lap last time around, a 120.778. As good as anything we've seen from the 3 championship competitors, that's for sure. And you can see the comparison between Fines and Rast in terms of sector times. Not much between them in the middle of the lap, but the first and final sectors, particularly the final sector, is where the key difference seems to be at the moment. On board with Renee Rast now then. He's quicker than Fines on the previous lap, but generally has been about 1/10 of a second behind him at the early part of this session. Rast coming out now and about to head over the line, and ultra consistent normally. Let's see what it is. Yeah, 121.08. So time's just starting to fade away now a little bit, a couple of tenths slower than the lap before that for Renee Rast. We didn't see any mistakes from the part of the lap that we watched or any traffic. It's natural that the tyres will start to go off, but they're not going off too badly, and the pace is still very good. More than matching and actually going quite a bit quicker than they did at the equivalent stage last weekend. Muller still just about hanging into the 120s, a 120.9 last time around. So he, again, keeping the pace up. That's what he's very good at in these longer runs, Nico Muller. Looking after those tyres in the first 6 or 7 laps and keeping the pace up at the end of the session. He's not always the absolute quickest for the first half dozen laps, but he's thereabouts. But afterwards, he gets the time back. So the track map here, watching now, coming out through turns 12, 13 and 14 and towards 15 and 16, the left-right chicane at Jackie Hicks to take these relatively flat curbs, nice and smooth, up through the gears, up to 5th gear as he goes over the line now, and Renee Rast records another very consistent lap time, 121.075, just under 12 minutes of the session to go. So 121.075. Fines has picked up the pace a little bit as well. 121.1 for him last time around. They're still the 2 quickest drivers out there. Muller's last lap time a tiny bit slower, 121.2. And then you've got Green and Newey, 121.6 last time around, although Green's just gone across the line a little bit slower. And then Robin Fines with a 121.6. That's, again, losing a few tenths compared to the lap before. Rockenfeller's still going well, 121.3 for him last time around. And Philip Eng still in the 121s as well, a 121.9. So Rast, the quickest at the moment, with a 121.0. Then Muller, and then Fines looks like he's just losing a little bit of time now to be right on board with Renee Rast, making his way around this circuit through the final sector out of turn 12. It's flat through 13 and 14. It's pretty, well, it's hardly a chicane, that, the Ockenrinch chicane. The only posthumous ever Formula 1 world champion, the Austrian driver. As out now through the final chicane at Jackie Hicks comes Renee Rast. Metronomic in the way he's just got this rhythm going now, and again it's a 121.1. So impressive the way they can put these cars on a pinpoint and lap within a 1/10 of a second each time around. Just getting into the groove. He's got his target time he's going to aim for. And the car and the tyres, the Hankook tyres holding up well. They start the weekend with 7 sets of Hankook tyres. After the end of the second free practice session, they had 2 of those back. That's slick tyres, of course. 3 sets of wets that they can use over the course of a weekend, but I don't think that's going to be the case here. First proper chance then to see in action newcomer to DTM, standing in for Loic Duval, but certainly not a newcomer to motorsport. Former World Endurance Champion and 3-time winner of Le Mans for Audi, Benoit Trillier, the French driver, who's standing in for Loic this weekend, who is racing at Petit Le Mans in the USA. And Benoit at the moment still getting up to speed, as you'd expect, these 2 free practice sessions, as much as anything about him learning the car, learning the circuit, learning the circumstances. So currently lapping in the sort of mid to high 122s. Not a million miles off the pace of sort of the mid-pack on longer run pace. His best lap at the start of the session was a 122.5. So some time still to be found, but a driver with huge success. He won Le Mans in 2011, 2012, where he was part of the team for Audi that took the first ever victory for a hybrid car in the 24-hour race at La Sarthe. And then he won again in 2014. Last race the DTM car, a WRT Audi, as I said, at Fuji, Japan at the end of last season. Got a 6th place finish in the first race to become the highest placed of the DTM cars. And he's also going back a little bit now, got some experience of single-seater success as well. He was the Formula Nippon champion back in 2006. It's actually 18 years since he made his debut at Le Mans. It was a Corvette he raced that season before he went up into LMP1. More recent years, he's been doing just a few selected races in GTs and some one-make series. So hasn't been concentrating on any specific championships over the last few seasons. He might be a little bit ring rusty as well, having I doubt done much, if any, racing so far this year. So Trillier with a 122.9 last time around, consistent as well. Right, Robin Friends has just recorded a pretty slow lap time. Now, this might be a one-off. He might have just backed off somewhere or had a moment or come up to some traffic. But the last lap, worryingly, was 124.4, whereas Rast is still in the 121s, 121.5. But Muller is the one, again, that's keeping up the pace very well at the end of this long run, a 121.071. So Muller now becomes the quickest man on track at the moment as we ride on board with Sheldon van der Linde. His last lap was a 122.397. Puts him sort of at the head of the second group, if you like. The very quickest drivers all in the 121s, but a fair few that are slower than him as well. Watching him make his way through the first of the chicanes, through turns 5 and 6. Now you go up over the crest, down through the left-hander at turn 6, down towards the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. Hard braking zone this. Down to second gear through this sequence of corners, and it leads then into the Turleman right-hander. And then this little kink flat out down towards turn 12, Boulderberg. So drop down to second gear for, and around about 75 kilometres an hour. Out of that, flat out through the next chicane at turns 13 and 14 into the final sector now, which takes in that last sequence of corners and this final sequence of corners at Jackie X, which again is just under 80 kilometres an hour. Get on the gas, slight uphill climb to the start-finish line, and then the track starts to descend down towards the first left-hander, the first corner at Erster, which is taken, as you can see, at great speed. Knock it down to just about 145, 150 kilometres an hour through the right-hander at turn 2, Sterrenwacht. At 2.5 G through here because they're still pushing about 190 kilometres an hour through the apex of that corner, and 5th gear, and then through turn 5 at Canal, turn 3 at Canal, and turn 4 at Lucien Bianchi. They're still in 5th gear as well. Right, BMW and Audi. This is replicating what we saw in race 2 last weekend, where the two of them, having made their pit stops, had to work together to try and catch the pack, and then realised they weren't going to catch the pack for the final couple of laps of the race. This was pretty much the view that Nico Muller had as he stared at the back of the 2014 and 2016 DTM champions BMW to try and find a way past him and to pick up more useful points. Finished 8th and 9th in the end. Muller backing off, as you can see. I think Is he going to stay out on track? I think he's staying out on track, though, rather than going into the pits. Lucas Auer and Mike Rockenfeller working together as they come through. BMW and Audi. What's Rocky's times at the moment? 1:21.9s. So he's thereabouts. He's certainly in the top 5 at the moment. Well, Muller, we know, was lapping in the lowish 1:21s, but he's just backed off on that lap. So we'll assume he's still capable of quick lap times. We've got Green 1:21.7, Newey 1:21.9 going well, 1:21.9 for Rockenfeller. And they're the 3 drivers in the 1:21s. 1:21.695 for Jamie Green last time around. Good lap. Frines 1:22.3, and Rast still in the low 1:22s. So it's a pretty similar story to last weekend. Robin Frines is, of the 3 championship competitors, of anybody, in fact, the quickest as Mike Rockenfeller comes through. Practices is overtaken on Lucas Auer. It is Robin Frines who's quicker at the start of the long run, but fades away a little bit more. It's not too bad this time, but Renee Rast is sort of in the middle. He's not the quickest at the start, he's not the quickest at the end, but he's consistent all the way through the session. And Nico Muller, he's a bit slower than both of them for the first 5 or 6 laps, but then becomes quicker than them at the end of the session as the tyre degradation comes in. So very little between them, really, over the course of this first free practice session. They're all 3 of them up there, all 3 of them looking good. Right, Muller, yes, he's still capable of low 1:21s. Now he's put another lap in after backing off on the previous one, a 1:21.4. So he's still the quickest man on the track, Nico Muller. Renee Rast's last lap time was a 1:21.9, which is his slowest for a while. And a 1:22.3 for Frines. Rast looks like he's backed off a bit on this lap. Yes, he has, because he's about to be passed by his championship rival. So there's the championship leader, and there's the driver second in the championship in the same shot. Renee Rast just backing it off. Just 3 minutes to go. Have some practice starts at the end of this first free practice session as well. All useful practice and information for the drivers and teams. .121.4 for Muller last time around then, compared to a 1:21.9 for Rast and a 1:22.0 for Frines. Second quickest driver at the moment on track is Jamie Green. His last 2 laps have been a 1:21.6 and a 1:21.8. So again, the pace is looking good here at longer runs. Just get himself good qualifying, good grid, and shake off some of the bad luck that he's undoubtedly had this season. A few retirements as well, damage retirement. After contact with Philip Eng in race 1 last weekend, where he was running in the points, running in 10th place, and had to retire in the latter stages. Damage to the front right corner of Jamie Green's Team Rosberg Audi, and then temperatures rising in terms of the water temps in the car, so he had to save the engine. Right, we are told might get some audio, hopefully, if the tech works, from Ferdinand Habsburg. He's going to talk us around a lap is the plan, which will be cool to hear. A very good session for Ferdinand, once again. 5th quickest on absolute times and decent pace as well. Not in the very top group, but somewhere in that second group of times on the longer run pace, just at a 1:22.4. This is a replay of Jonathan Aberdeen with bits of bodywork dropping off his BMW. Don't want to run over that with your tyres either, on those sharp edges. So that's just about gets off the circuit. Actually, it's fairly lightweight, isn't it? Is that the light cover? The rear light. So I don't think it would necessarily be that sharp. Anyway, Jonathan Aberdeen's car a bit lighter than it was at the start of the lap. Minute to go in the session. Last time around, Muller 1:22.064, so he's down into the up into the 1:22s now. But Rast 1:22.1 and Frines 1:22.9. Again, can't quite match Frines and Rast at the end of the runs. Rockenfeller still looking good as well. 1:21.8. The only driver still in the 1:21s, Mike Rockenfeller, at the end of the session. Timo Glock thunders through. Harrison Newey thunders through as well. Be delighted to be 4th quickest at the end of this first free practice session, and his long run pace is good as well. 1:22.4.
One more lap.
So one more lap on the team radio there to Ferdinand Habsburg. And again, continues to impress. Here, the WRT squad, Vincent Voss's team, having a really good weekend here. Last weekend, a couple of 3 top 7s and a 6th place as well for the last 4 races. As I said, for Ferdinand, makes him very much on form. Flag is ready then, and he's waved as Timo Glock comes through. Jonathan Aberdeen and Benoit Trellier have already taken the checkered flag. Here's Nico Muller, again staring at the back of Marco Wittmann's car, escorting back up again as those two take the flag. A 1:22.2 on his final lap for Muller. For Wittmann, a 1:23.3. So it's about a second off the pace here. Both on short run and long run pace as well. Wittmann with 13th fastest time at the start of the session, a 1:20.6. So something to be found here for him. Pace overall quicker than it was at this equivalent session last weekend. Robin Freins has made his way into the pits. So that is 3 free practice sessions that we've had here at Zolder in the last week or so. Well, last week, since last Friday. And 3 times that Robin Freins has had his name at the top of the times. But again, he'd be slightly concerned. It's not too bad as it was in the first free practice session.
And then maximum cool down to the grid. Maximum cool down to the grid. So to update you, we don't think the radio is working. So if you want to comment on the radio, you have to press the button. If not, we cancel it. Please confirm if you want to cancel or not.
So if I just hold the button, it'll work, yes?
The latch is not working. You have to press the button.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to do it.
Reminder, speak German. Speak German. Go very slow on your lap to the grid. Very slow on your lap to the grid because all the cars are in front of us.
Copy. I just do it now because then we'll have it over with.
Copy.
All right, see if you can get it working then. Get it done, he said.
So to whoever's listening, I'm going to start recording from exit turn 12, or say exit of the last corner, okay?
Yes, copy that. Copy that.
So, Ferdinand Habsburg attempting to get this live commentary done for us. So he's going to start the audio coming out of the exit to turn 12. I'm not hearing anything yet.
So at the moment there are 4 cars on the grid, 4 cars.
Willkommen, Damen und Herren, und mit Ferdinand Habsburg. Willkommen in meinem Audi RS5 DTM. Ich komme jetzt zu einem Start mit meinem Landsmann Lukas Auer und Vorbereitung auf eine Runde herum Zolder. Ich komme jetzt, gut bin ich da kommen an, gleich geht's los. Und wir sind weg unterwegs auf Zolder. Ja, und der Lukas auch auf der Linie runterzukommen, runter in die erste Kurve und wir pushen gleich weiter. In die zweite Kurve runter in Kurve 4. Richtig alkig, viel Gehkraft, Kurve wichtig und diese Kurve hier, Richtung Kurve 4. Heißkorner, wo man richtig den Nacken spüren kann. Gute Ausflug ist wieder wichtig mit DRS auf dieser Geraden hier. Gute Möglichkeit, Bremsen bei der 100 Meter Tafel. Unter die erste Schikane, guter Ausflug wieder wichtig und wieder wichtig, wie sein Anstoßensitz rauskommt und guter Holz wieder für die zweite Schikane. Den Körper es wird ganz wichtig für eine schnelle Rundenzeit und vom Top über die Hinterreifen. Richtig schön Gas geben, guter Ausgang wieder auf die nächste Gerade, Vollgas über den Rechtskurve und in den 6. Gang runter zur Haarnadel. Bremsen bei 100 Meter Tafel. Runter in den ersten Gang, guten Ausgang hier, Wiederholung, die ganze erste hier Runde zu den letzten Sekunden, aber wir werden jetzt für die erste Runde rum Zolder. Ich hoffe, ihr habt einen mega Spaß, so wie ich. Und ich wünsche euch ein super tolles Rennen und Spaß beim Zuschauen. Vielen Dank.
Airless off. Make
So
sure
you
we
go.
cool down the engine. Not sure this was quite okay, but let's see.
Oh, it's a pretty good attempt, I think, for German-speaking viewers there. A lap of the circuit.
Bad as it never has been so bad.
Courtesy of Ferdinand Habsburg.
Say that again.
Quality is so bad, like it never.
It's typical, isn't it? Radio works beautifully normally, and then it starts breaking up when you want to record a flying lap. It's never been that bad, says the team, but it was pretty good. I think caught most of that, and pretty amazing, isn't it? You can drive a car at 265 kilometres an hour and talk us around a lap and to press the radio button all the time. So good to witness that as we see the results of the first free practice session here, this penultimate weekend of DTM. Robin Freins once again at the top of the times on single lap pace, a 1:19.571, quickest lap of a free practice session that we've had so far at Zolder. That's including last weekend, of course, as well. So 1:19.571, less than a tenth quicker than Renee Rast in second, and then Green third, Newey fourth, Habsburg fifth, Muller sixth, Aberdeen seventh, and Rockenfeller eighth, all within a tenth of a second of each other. Scherer and van der Linde completing the top 10. So a very good start to the weekend for Jamie Green for Audi Sport Team Rosberg. He might well have a part to play in this championship as well, because of course he is teammate to this man, Renee Rast, the driver that is on a real charge in this championship campaign, looking for his third title in DTM. He ends the session just 53 thousandths of a second adrift of this man, Robin Freins, who needs to make amends for his crash in race 2 at Zolder, and it looks like he is determined to do so. So Robin Freins ending the session with a 1:19.571 second. Another half-hour free practice session to come this afternoon, and then of course tomorrow qualifying in the morning and race 1 as we look forward to the final 4 races of the campaign. So round 15 coming up tomorrow.